Είμαστε έτοιμοι? Πανήρθαμε. Η Γενική Γραμματέα στο Υπουργείο Ενέργειας, η Αλεξάνδρα Σδούκου.
The Secretary General, Ms. Alexandra Sdoukou.
Για να δούμε.
Let's see if it works.
Θέλετε να του μιλήσετε εσείς. Να δούμε τώρα αν θα είμαι τυχερή λοιπόν εγώ ή πρέπει να
Let's see if I'm going to be lucky or I need to be in a hurry.
Καλημέρα.
Good morning to all.
Αγαπητέ
Dear
Νίκο,
Nikos,
που να ξέρεις ότι σε αγαπάμε
let me know that we all love you because you always speak with your soul and with honesty and realism, I would say, and of course, you always love your home country. Mr. Vice Governor, where was he? He was somewhere here, I think. Mr. Mayor, Ambassador of the Netherlands, and Your Excellencies from Egypt. Kalimera se όλους. It is a great pleasure for me to be in Chania today, and of course it is a great honor for me to represent the Prime Minister in this conference, where he certainly could not have missed this invitation to his office. I'll be honest with you, I don't know Crete at all. I've been 2 times, I think, for 1 or 2 days. I don't know anything, unfortunately. I think next time I need to come and stay and see the island. And yesterday I called a colleague of mine who in the office who comes from Chania and asked him, Aris, can you please tell me what is Chania to you? And he told me, it's the soul of Greece. So I came with this feeling. Crete is not just another island of Greece and another region of Europe. It has always been a historical crossroads of high strategic importance in the Eastern Mediterranean, Europe and Southern Europe as a whole, and today Crete opens a large window of opportunity and cooperation with our neighboring countries, and is the pillar on which Greece's ambition to become a cutting-edge energy hub, with a great special weight for the energy security, not only of the region but also of the whole Europe. Now, let's go to the news, the bad news, what is now happening in Europe. Europe faces, as we all do, one of the worst threats of the last decade. This energy crisis, as you all see, we read every day, has pushed to the limits many countries that were considered immune to even these strong economic shocks. And everyone foresees that we will have a difficult winter, and yet all this happened because in the last 2 years we have a series of reasons, such as the sudden sharp recovery of the economy after the pandemic, the increase in demand and prices of LNG in the Asian market, the restriction of supply in Europe, the reduction of European gas production. We had low stocks in underground storage, and the shortage of supply from Russia, and all of these were enough to trigger this uncontrolled jump in gas prices that dragged down electricity prices and brought the EU to its responsibilities. I think it was a pivotal moment for Europe and its energy and climate policy. And this is because this crisis that spread and deepened after the Russian invasion of Ukraine threatened to momentarily derail the basic principles and structures of the energy transition policy. You know, it took the European decision-making system to wake up and strong pressure from several member countries on the Commission to mobilize an entire risk prevention mechanism and to have a series of measures and actions and to define the instruments that will finance the path, firstly, to curb the effects of the crisis, and secondly, to continue the path, this green path towards 2030-2050. Today, Europe's energy strategy is about income support for households to relieve them from the cost of energy, and targeted support for businesses that have been hit hard with state guarantees for loans, subsidies, and, of course, the promotion of a forward-looking policy to win the EU as quickly as possible from imports of Russian fossil fuels. And, of course, here we have to say that Europe has not yet, unfortunately, responded to the serious issue of dealing with the runaway gas prices that are driving up electricity prices, energy prices with a drastic solution. With the European solution, only the countries are struggling to deal with the crisis with their own fiscal space. They cannot do this alone. And the only loud voice in Brussels every time the conferences meet is that of the Prime Minister, who from the very first moment proposed a way to intervene at the root of the problem. And we still wait this more effective European solution. Now, Greece is dealing with this energy crisis more effectively than any other country in Europe. You know that we have launched the strongest package of measures to tackle energy poverty in Europe. In electricity, gas and liquid fuels, we have actively supported Greek citizens, even retroactively. And I stress this, especially those who need it most, the most vulnerable. This is a difficult battle, the battle of the kilowatt, of the hose. And you know that together with the first electricity aid package we have launched in cooperation with the European Commission as a government, we tried to change in wholesale market rules and to suspend the application of the indexation clause. We did this 2 days ago. So, Europe's last collective response to these serious problems that the European strategy making system itself has largely caused to itself is the Repower EU project. What is it? You all know it. The urgent need to diversify Europe's energy sources with immediate decoupling from Russian fossil fuels. Indicatively, we aim to reduce imports of natural gas, currently 150 BCM, by 2/3 within a year. Very ambitious aim to reduce by 2/3 and completely by 2027. The second thing that Repower EU says is that we need to accelerate the penetration of renewables, increasing Europe's energy self-sufficiency. The target of the share of renewables from 40% a few months ago with Fit for 55 is now increased to 45%, and also greater emphasis on energy storage to address any disruption to supply adequacy. And similarly, storage have gone from 9% to 13%, a very demanding target. With Repower EU, we all aspire as a united Europe to address the difficulties and disruption of the global energy market triggered And allow me to this point to explain to you briefly why it is urgent to transform Europe's energy system. There are two main reasons, I would say. First, ending our dependence on Russian energy. Unfortunately, Moscow instrumentalizes the fossil fuels as they export in Europe in order to be able to control the governments of the member states. And as we all understand, this has painful consequences for the economies and pockets of the taxpayers. I imagine you know, do you know how much money we spent on importing gas, oil and coal from Russia? Almost 100 billion euros a year. So if we act collectively and with one voice, we can achieve this goal quickly and above all with security of supply from different suppliers. The second reason is because we need to continue on our own path towards the energy transition, and this is the importance of the Greek government and in particular the Ministry of Environment and Energy's insistence on promoting policies and actions that contribute to the further penetration of green energy. Our forecasts show a further deceleration of energy costs in the coming years, precisely because of the significantly higher participation of renewables in the electricity system. To be clearer, the target in 2019 as a country, we had a target we set for 2030, and we are in a position as a country to reach this goal earlier, around 2026. So we have the possibility, also in the context of the revised Fit for 55, to adjust our 2030 renewable energy targets upwards. We're also combining the penetration of RES in the domestic mix with new targets, with the upgrading of transmission networks, which will be clearly reflected in the updated NECP, as well as the new regulatory framework of energy storage. Based on what I have just mentioned, we predict that by 2026 we will have installed 20 gigawatts of renewable capacity in the country, and by 2030 we will have exceeded 24. So, to sum up, the EU's energy strategy is about green transformation, boosting economic growth, security and climate action, and our key tools on this path are, as you know, the recovery and resilience mechanism, which is, and I repeat this, which places particular emphasis on energy storage, which is the fastest and cheapest way to tackle the energy crisis and store more energy. It facilitates diversification of supply, and Greece has set out to become an energy transit hub, acquires greater specific geostrategic weight, and determines, perhaps for the first time in modern history, the choices concerning our neighboring countries. And by the end of this decade, investment in the energy sector, especially in renewable energy, is expected to exceed 50 billion euros. So, back to Crete, I think that this policy for the energy, it was a political conflict, but it is very positive that this is no longer present, because this huge work of interconnecting Crete, the island, with the continental Greece and electrification system, this is it's a new period, a new era, and as you all know, it is one of the most ambitious projects, and this is in the top 5. Crete Attica is in the top 5 of the most innovative interconnection projects, and from 2024, when both interconnectors will be commercially operational, we estimate that Greek consumers will see reductions of 550 million euros in their electricity bills, reaching 1 billion euros in 2030. Let's not forget that Crete is a focal point for major electrical interconnection projects being considered for the region, such as the Euro-Asia interconnector, And as we have now representatives from Egypt, another important project is the interconnection with Cyprus and Israel and Egypt. This is a very important cooperation which will transfer 100% green energy from Egypt, and Greece will become a way to transfer green energy from Egypt to Europe. And Mr. Kalogeris, of course, Crete has a huge potential. You have now 314 megawatts. 67% is wind. So it is evident how the potential that Crete has to develop the renewable energy resources. This is also within the policies of the Greek government. We carry on this effort as a ministry to develop the RES, renewable energy resources. Now we have 12.5 gigawatts of installed power, and we aim to 25 gigawatts until 2030. We aim to deploy 3 gigawatts of storage, and we give the potential to Crete for another, for small projects up to 400 kilowatts, and with net metering and self-generation. I think this is very important for the residents of the region to decrease the cost of energy, and in the businesses. And of course, when the interconnection is completed, there will be more margins. Now, of course, it is not self-evident that everything I've told you is easy. We need to exploit the corporations. We're lucky to have resources, and also from ESPA. And in total, in the next years, for energy, more than 10 billion euros will be made available. These are funds that will be allocated to green projects, accelerating the energy transition, energy storage and sustainable mobility. And this war in Ukraine, despite the necessary adjustments that it obliges us to make, it does not alter the core of our plans. The lignite plant, for example, in the country will necessarily have to operate more in the coming period to meet demand, but it doesn't mean that we will not carry on by the book until 2028, remaining only in reserve. And let me say specifically about gas, because I know that many people are worried about the possibility that in the winter we may find ourselves with energy shortages. It is a well-founded risk for Europe if Russia carries out its threats and cuts off the gas flow. We already see countries like Germany preparing for the worst-case scenario. In our country, although our dependence is lower than others, we are not resting on our laurels, and we are implementing a number of projects that will allow us to secure our gas supply, but also to support other countries, as we're already doing with Bulgaria. So, we have a new floating tank in Revithousa, and we increase the capacity of the station by 70%, and we carry on to work for the energy security of the country. There is a commitment from the Prime Minister, and for everything I've mentioned so far. I think that in a few years, even though we have now faced difficult situations and uncertain situations, I think that in a few years, thanks to the Greece will be a completely different country concerning energy, and I think that they will have a brighter future. Thank you very much.
Ευχαριστούμε την κυρία Σδούκου για την ενημέρωση που μας έκανε για τις, για τις πολιτικές της κυβέρνησης σχετικά με την ενέργεια.
Concerning the
στο πρόγραμμα
of the government concerning energy, we have a change in
μιλήσει σε σύνδεση διαδικτυακή.
In the program, we have
η κυρία Ντόρα Μπακογιάννη,
online speech, Ms. Dora
και πρώην Υπουργός Εξωτερικών.
Former Prime Minister of Foreign Affairs. Good morning.
Έχετε το λόγο.
You can now talk.
Good morning. Dear friends, a big thank you to the organizers for this wonderful conference and to all of the speakers for their input. It is a great pleasure to address you today discussing such a current, urgent and imperative issue. The energy strategy of the European Union and the role that Greece can play in furthering it. It is no secret that the war in Ukraine, one that has been raging for 5 months now, has impacted dramatically the energy landscape, the energy security and sustainability of the world, and of course of Europe. Prior to the war, prior to President Putin's manipulation of energy prices and availability of oil and gas that resulted to the energy crisis we are experiencing now, EU's energy strategy was ambitious. We needed more green energy, we needed to curb emissions and transition to cleaner forms of energy with a net zero output by 2050. Today, the ambition is even greater as we face 3 major challenges. How to rapidly reduce energy dependence on Russia with a view to imposing an embargo on Russian oil and possibly gas that EU member states can support. How to build new partnerships with third countries around green tech and critical raw materials to protect European energy security in the long term, and how to implement the measures in the Fit for 55 package that can bring the European Green Deal to life. And of course, the said challenges spread out intersectorally and require significant investment in their own right, in infrastructure, in welfare support to help struggling households and businesses, and in political and diplomatic commitment. What is important to point out is that the European Union is rising up to the challenge of the looming energy security, and even with small, steady steps, it creates the fundamentals for a common European energy strategy. The Commission's Repower EU plan sets out significant milestones for a climate transition away from fossil fuels. And it was only a few days ago that the decision of the G7 that a holistic approach seems to sink in, not just in isolating Russia and the dependence from its oil and gas, but also to solidify cooperation on energy security and sustainability. I'm sure you heard on Tuesday the speech by the Executive Vice President of the European Commission, Mr. Timmermans, at the Brussels Forum, where these goals come together to enhance and create an energy-independent European Union that will invest in renewables, green hydrogen and alternative sources of energy, and build the necessary infrastructure to allow member states to reach the potential on energy security. Greece and the government of Kyriakos Mitsotakis have been since day one focused and oriented on that goal, both on energy transition and climate change. Our country has been at the core countries of the European Union to promote legislation, strategic policy plans that today come at a great use. The investment in Alexandroupolis port, turning the area into an energy hub, the investment on LNG, the facilities, the policy and legislation of photovoltaics, the cooperation with Egypt, Bulgaria and Cyprus and Israel, as well as policies that support the everyday consumer and businessman, are just a few examples that demonstrate the readiness of our country. Of course, the path ahead is not easy. The vision set out in Repower EU is only the first step in transforming the EU's energy strategy. Its implementation will require a whole-scale renovation of European leaders' approach to climate and energy diplomacy. The EU needs a foreign policy strategy to manage all these efforts, to build and sustainably financing, and to manage the geopolitical dimension, to use diplomacy and sustainable adaptation. Oh, sorry, excuse me. If the EU takes too long to strengthen the partnership with the African Union, this will heighten the risk of African economies falling prey to an extractive model that hampers the green transition, even as the rest of the world profits. Greece, with its strategic geopolitical location and strong relations with the Middle East and Africa, can and should be on the forefront of this energy foreign policy. At the same time, however, to support such an ambition, we must ensure a strong coordination between EU institutions in Brussels and member state capitals, as well as the third countries, between EU delegations and national embassies, to ensure that energy and climate diplomacy are central to the promotion of European interests abroad. To sum up, dear friends, today, more than ever, the stakes are high. The challenges that lie ahead are not easy, but are not insurmountable. It is with unity that we can overcome them. To achieve energy security and sovereignty, as well as the ambitious green goals of the climate change agenda, we need security, stability, and a strategic plan. Greece, as a key member state of the EU on the policy for green and sustainable future, and the bridge between EU and the Southeast neighborhoods, can contribute, can innovate, and above all, Greece can lead. Thank you very much for your attention.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ την κυρία Μπακογιάννη. And now we will proceed with the program, and we will call in the podium Dr. Ahmed Mohamed Moina, First Under-Secretary of Research, Planning and Authorities from the Egypt's Ministry of Energy and Renewables. Mr. Moina, the podium is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Your Excellency, Energy Secretary Skodo. I am Ahmed Meina, First Under-Secretary for in the Ministry of Electricity in Egypt, and I have the honor to be today with you to give a short presentation, to give an overview about the electricity sector in Egypt and what is the situation now in Egypt, and regarding the phase of energy transition in Egypt, which was started many years ago. My presentation will include the situation in before I start my presentation, please, what is the, excuse me, moderator, what is the time of my presentation, please? Okay. My presentation will include the situation in Egypt in 2014 and what are the actions has been taken to overcome the shortage in electricity in Egypt, and what are the actions have been done to upgrade our transmission grid, and what is the more sustainable phase for the electricity sector in Egypt. And I will finish my presentation with the electrical interconnection between Egypt and Europe, especially with Greece. In 2014 in Egypt faced a very big problem regarding the shortage of electricity. There was a gap between production and demand in Egypt due to many reasons regarding the massive electrical power outage and the low availability factor of power plants. Also for the transmission constraints and the losses in the transmission grid. So many actions has been taken to overcome this shortage. We started from the clear instruction from the President to the Minister of Electricity that energy is considered a matter of national security. So we moved in many tracks and many parallel paths. First one of the fast track plan to implement around 3,636 megawatt as a fast track, which was implemented in 8 months, which is considered as an international record in this regard. Also, we succeeded to complete all power plants under implementation and under construction to add also around 4,250 megawatt by completing our power plants. Also, we implemented a mega project in cooperation with Siemens to implement around 14.4 gigawatt as a mega project in the 3 projects in New Capital, Brolos, and Bani Suef. And also, after adding this amount of capacities to the grid, we already worked in the field of energy efficiency to upgrade our power plants and reduce losses. Let me say that we succeeded to add around 28 gigawatt in 5 years, which is equal to the same capacity was as existing capacities in Egypt before 2014. Also, we succeeded to reduce the fuel consumption to produce kilowatt hour from in Egypt. We succeeded to decrease the fuel consumption from 214 gram per kilowatt hour to be now 180 gram per kilowatt hour, which is represent about 16% as improvement of electricity production. Also, we worked to upgrade our transmission grid. We succeeded to add in the field of 500 kV. We succeeded to add around 2,364 kilometers, which was considered as 1.5 times of existing lengths before 2014. Also, we added around 6 regional control centers to the grid. Also, after implementing and after constructing this amount of projects, we succeeded to cover the gap between production and demand in Egypt. Since 2015, we haven't any outage of electricity. We haven't any shortage of electricity. Yes, we have some problems in the field of distribution, but we are working now to cover or to remove all obstacles in our grids. So in 2016, we moved to a new phase for sustainability as a sustainable phase of energy in Egypt, because Egypt is very rich in the field of renewable energy, in the field of wind and solar. We have a potential of 77 gigawatt from renewable energy from wind and solar. Wind Atlas and Solar Atlas shows that in Egypt. Also, we set a very ambitious strategy in Egypt to maximize the share of renewable energy to be around 42% by 2035. And also, we plan to improve energy efficiency in Egypt by 18% as an improvement in energy efficiency by 2035. This slide shows the energy mix in 2035. The energy mix will include all kinds of renewable energy, PV systems, wind energy, CSP, concentrated solar power plants, and also from hydro, and the reset from conventional energy, which is considered as yani optimal energy mix in our electricity. Also, the government of Egypt set a lot of incentives for the private sector to invest in the field of renewable energy, as land allocation was around 5,200 kilometers square. Also, the availability of information concerning solar atlas and wind atlas. Also, the environmental impact assessment studies available to the investor. Also, we signed a long-term power purchase agreement with the investors with around 25 years with the investor as a power purchase agreement. Also, there is we decreased the custom duties to be around 2% for all equipments imported in the field of renewable energy. Also, the government provide a sovereign guarantees to the investors to invest in the field of renewable energy. Now we have under implementation now and under construction around 3,500 megawatt in the field of from wind and solar, with many international investors, as you see, Masdar, Aquapower, Nuez, Siemens, Gamesa, and so on. Now in Egypt, the wind energy reached around 1,625 megawatt from wind energy from public sector and private sector. This slide shows the public sector from wind and from private sector, and also now under implementation we have a project with L'Aquila, which is a UK company in the field of wind energy. In solar energy, we succeeded to implement the biggest project in the field of solar energy in the region, in the Middle East and Africa, with capacity of 1,465 megawatt. This project won as a best project in the world in 2019 by the World Bank, with total investment was $2 billion. This photos shows the receiving of the reward of this project, and also we work on the field of net metering, which is small scales PV systems. We succeeded to reach 120 megawatt from rooftop units as a small scales with net metering scheme, which is give the consumer the opportunity to exchange electricity with our grid. In the field of hydropower, we used and utilized all potentials on the River Nile with capacity of 2,832 megawatt from hydro. And now we have around 6,128 megawatt as existing project from the renewable energy, and after adding the projects under implementation, now we will reach around 10 gigawatt from renewable energy by the end of next year, which is represent 20% of our peak load now. Now is very important to move to the new technologies and new innovations. One of them is the green hydrogen, or hydrogen as whole, blue and green, but we are focusing on the green hydrogen. So we are moving in this regard in two parallel paths. One of them to implement and to prepare our national strategy for hydrogen, for production, utilization, transporting, and exporting green hydrogen to the European market. Egypt is considered now or share now with 9.4% of the market of fertilizers, but frankly speaking, it is the gray fertilizers, but we plan now to convert gray fertilizers to be green fertilizers by producing hydrogen in our energy mix. Let me say that Egypt, one of the first countries produced green energy in 1960, where Egypt started the first project in the field of green hydrogen in Kima in Aswan to produce green hydrogen by using hydropower electricity produced from high dam and using Nile River from to the water. And now, frankly speaking, this project stopped regarding the raising of the cost of electricity from the high dam. But there is many plans to return back to the green hydrogen by using the green energy from wind and solar in this region. As I mentioned, to implement our strategy, we signed an MOU with EBRD, which is European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, to finance our energy, our green hydrogen strategy in Egypt. I think within 3 months we will finish this strategy and we will launch this strategy in COP27 in next November. Also, in parallel path of preparing our strategy, we are working now to implement some of pilot projects with the international developers. We signed around 9 MOUs with international developers. We signed with Siemens, also with Demi from Belgium, also with Eni from Italy, and also with the Norwegian company Scatec. This project with capacity of 100 megawatt, and we will be in implementation and in operation before COP27 in next November. Also, we signed some MOUs with Maersk from Germany and with the EDF from France. Recently we signed an MOU with Nuez from United Arab Emirates. So we are working very hard in the field of green hydrogen to be a hub and to be a pioneer for green hydrogen energy in the region. Also, we are working now in the field of waste-to-energy, targeting around 300 megawatt from waste-to-energy with a very competitive price with 1.4 Egyptian pound, which is equal around $8 for kilowatt hour produced from waste-to-energy, and targeting, as I mentioned, around 300 megawatt from coming from waste to energy in the coming 5 years. Also in the field of electric vehicles. Electric vehicles now is a very important issue, so we plan to disseminate the electric vehicles in Egypt. We will start from COP27 and we will convert Sharm el-Sheikh city to be a green city, and all buses and all cars running in the Sharm el-Sheikh will be as electrical vehicles in COP27 next November. Also in the field of water desalination. Water desalination is very important. Egypt suffering now from the shortage of water, fresh water. So we working now to desalinate water from in cooperation with the Ministry of Housing. This plan targets to desalinate around 6 million cubic meter from desalinated water in Egypt annually. The last thing, and the first important thing for Egypt, is electrical interconnection. Electrical interconnection, we have a very big potentials in the field of renewable, in the field of electrical interconnection, regarding the excellent location of Egypt between three important continents, Europe, Africa, and Asia. Also, the huge renewable energy potential in Egypt from wind and solar. Also, the electrical energy surplus now in Egypt, around 30 gigawatt as a surplus in Egypt, so we have a very big potential in this regard. And also the strong local manufacture in the field of electric interconnection. We succeeded to reach 100% from the equipments in the field of distribution components and distribution equipments, and we are working now to raise the local manufacture percentage in the field of transmission and the production. Also, we have a very good electrical interconnection grids with neighboring countries. And this map, this slide shows the vision of Egypt to be a hub, to be an important node for electrical interconnection in the region. Now, this slide shows the existing electrical interconnection projects in Egypt now, and what is the future projects in cooperation with neighboring countries, and also in cooperation with Europe, especially with Cyprus and Greece. And I will speak in details regarding each project from these projects. Now we are connected with Jordan with capacity of 450 megawatt, and we plan to maximize this capacity to be around 1,000 megawatt. And now we are working to finish the studies to maximize this project. Also, we are recently we connected with Sudan with capacity of 80 megawatt, and we are working to raise this capacity to be 300 megawatt by the end of next year, and maybe in the near future to be around 1,000 megawatt with Sudan to go through to the deep of Africa. Also, we are connected with Libya with capacity of 180 megawatt, and we are working to study to maximize this capacity to be around 2,000 megawatt in cooperation with North African countries. Now we are working in the very promising and a very huge project in to interconnect Egypt with Saudi Arabia with capacity of 3,000 megawatt with Saudi Arabia. After finishing this project, we will be connected with Arab Gulf countries, with Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and Oman. Also, it is very important for us to interconnect with European grid through our friends and our brothers from Cyprus and Greece. So the MOU as a trilateral memorandum of understanding already signed between three countries, Egypt, Cyprus, and Greece, in presence of the leadership of the three countries. This shows the ceremony of signing. Now we are focusing very important to interconnect directly between Egypt and Greece. So we saw that it is a very ambitious and a very important project to interconnect between Egypt and Greece. So many international companies have expressed their desire to discuss opportunities for cooperation in financing this project. As you see, many of international projects, one of them, the Greek company Kobiliousis. We appreciate our cooperation and Kobiliousis from many years ago, and I think Kobiliousis now has a very clear study to see how we can operate and how we can implement the interconnection between Egypt and Greece. Also, in last April, first meeting between the management of IPTO and the ETC from Egypt to exchange views to prepare the major projects. Also, the World Bank expressed their intentions to finance the feasibility study and also to finance the implementation of this project. This slide shows the implementation schedule of the project regarding the development stage, which will take around 2 years, and also the implementation stage will take around from 3 to 5 years. This project will be in operation in 5 or 6 years in the near future. This slide shows our vision and our target in the field of electrical interconnection from east with Jordan and Arab Mashriq, from west with Libya to the Arab Maghreb, and to the south for the deep of Africa to Cape Town in South Africa, also with Saudi Arabia, and also it is very important to interconnect with Europe through Greece and Cyprus and Greece. The last slide for me shows that during the last 5 years, the total investment in Egypt around $66 billion to improve our capabilities in the field of power generation, and also in the field of transmission, distribution, and also in the field of control centers. Also, we are working now to implement the first nuclear power plant in Dab'a, and also to implement the first project in the field of pump and storage with 2.4 gigawatt in the field of pump and storage. Also to invest in the field of electrical interconnection with Saudi Arabia, and also with Greece, Sudan, and Jordan. So Egypt has a very big potential in the field of electricity, especially in the field of electrical interconnection and the new innovation regarding green hydrogen. I will stop here, and I am very pleased again to be with you today, and I am ready to respond and to answer any question or clarification, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohina. Please take care for your interesting presentation. We will proceed to the next presentation. Θα συνεχίσουμε με την επόμενη παρουσίαση του καθηγητή κ. Μανιάτη, πρώην Υπουργού Περιβάλλοντος, Ενέργειας και Κλιματικής Αλλαγής. Να σας ενημερώσω ότι οι επόμενες δύο ομιλίες του κ. Σπρέγα και του κ. Χατζημαρκάκη δεν θα πραγματοποιηθούν. Ο κ. Χατζημαρκάκη θα μεταφερθεί για αύριο. Οπότε μετά τον κύριο Μανιάτη θα ακολουθήσει η κυρία Τέστα.
Hatzimarkakis will not take place today. So after Mr. Yannis Maniatis, Miss Terstal will follow. Good evening.
Καταρχήν να ευχαριστήσω θερμά για την πρόσκληση
να είμαι σήμερα μαζί σας.
Έχω καταγράψει 5 βασικές σκέψεις, ελπίζω των 2 λεπτών καθεμία.
Thoughts of 2 minutes each, I hope, in order to keep the time. These thoughts have to do with the European and national dimensions of the energy crisis we're going through now. And I start with the first thought. My first thought, we are proud as Europeans that Europe has transformed the Green Deal, the Green Transition policy, but we're not satisfied with the tragic mistakes Europe itself has done in the path towards the green transition. Not to be more clear, the green transition itself cannot be an energy strategy if it is not accompanied with other 2 characteristics of the sustainable energy. First, the energy security and adequacy. That's what we're going through now. we're talking about Russia and Europe now. And the third one, if we do not prevent the energy poverty which hits all the European households. It shocks me that in the last months we have seen many meetings of prime ministers, of the Commission and so on, and there is no reference to an element which has impressed me, to the European production of natural gas. We're trying to find alternative sources of natural gas, and no one has given an explanation to this simple phenomenon. Why in 2015 the European production of natural gas was 145 PCM, billion cubic meters, and today, after 6-7 years, these 145 PCM are only 95 PCM. Why consciously this European production of natural gas was reduced by 50 PCM, around 30% of the natural gas which is imported from Russia? There should be an explanation to this. But in order to close this remark, it is interesting that already, for example, Germany and the Netherlands have agreed to make common drillings to detect natural gas in Northern Sea, and Norway accelerates in order to be able to supply Europe with more natural gas, and Italy does the same in the regions which has its own resources. Obviously, I do not want to comment the stance that Greece has in terms of hydrocarbons in Ionian and in Crete. Second thought, in the context of this crisis we're going through, the European southern region and Draghi and the Spanish Prime Minister, they submit very specific recommendations for the creation of the Common European Fund for a single supply, for a cartel for buyers of natural gas, for regulations which need to be done in the context of the stock exchange of wholesale market of natural gas. And unfortunately, these very correct proposals, many other European countries show not to understand how important these proposals are, and that's why they are not accepted and could not go through to the councils or the councils of Europe. And third thought, what we need to realize is that this year and the last months of 2021, there has been a shocking transfer of wealth from Europe, and mainly from Europe, to the countries who produce natural gas and oil. So, in the last 10 years, the average income of the producing countries of hydrocarbons, their income from hydrocarbons, their average income revenue was $1.5 trillion. The estimations of the International Energy Association 2022 is that the revenues of those countries who produce hydrocarbons will be $4 trillion. And these additional $2.5 trillion, which will be transferred from the pockets of the European citizens, the European businesses, the European economies, and the economies of other regions. It is not reasonable to ask ourselves why we have come to this position, and why haven't we managed to prevent this transfer of wealth. And we should learn something from what we have been going through now, so we can prevent do the same things in another possible crisis. And my fourth thought, in Greece we are proud that since 2014 we have reported some of the best global performances in matters of green energy and renewable energy resources. Already since 2014, Greece is the 6th best country in the world in the per capita production of photovoltaic And since 2014, Greece, together with Germany, is the sixth best country in Europe in their participation of renewable energy resources in the power production. In the same period, since 2014 and even today, the program of energy savings. This is not being discussed very largely in the public discourse. We all focus on the production of energy, and we do not talk publicly on how to save energy. In Greece, since 2013, 2014 has the second best program scheme in the energy saving in Europe, right after Spain. So I think that now we're in a very good position, and with this ambitious program we have for the transition at the moment, and I think we're going to improve these positions, or consequently we can be optimistic for the next steps of the country. And also I'd like to add that since 2013 all these projects of natural gas and the cables, the HEB, the EastMed, for example, the FSR from Alexandroupolis, Eurasia interconnector, and lastly the Euro-Africa. These are actions which upgrade the country and can give the country a new diplomatic development in the wider matters of peace and in the Eastern Europe. Closing, in our country and in many countries of Europe, it's a very big misunderstanding. The RRF, the fund of the recovery fund, many times from the many administrative units is being treated as another ESPA, another fund. I'd like to clarify that this recovery fund is not another ESPA. The recovery fund should be the vision for the Greece of 2030. So we should change the way we think, the proposals that are being made by the administrative, national and regional authorities, and we need to understand that the recovery fund is maybe the only chance of the country on how we can envision our country in the last 10 years. And this vision is a meaning only if all citizens, if every one of us, all municipalities, all regions, all ministries, if we all together as a society can see ourselves, it is important that these proposals that are starting to be implemented and planned, they should be owned by the society itself. And I repeat, and I close this my speech today, the chance we have with this new funding resource is a chance that we need to seize, not to create new kingdoms, not to build new squares on the island, not to repeat the same actions that we did in the past. There should be new revolutionary reforms which will bring Greece to the top of the European green transition, of the European digital transformation, and also the steps that have already been made should be accelerated, and where needed there should be corresponding improvements and upgrades. And with these thoughts, I'd like to thank you for the invitation today once again. Good luck to the conference. Thank you very much, Mr. Maniatis. We're going to carry on.
The ambassador of Netherlands to Greece, Mrs. Terstal, the podium is yours. Just to inform you that after the next presentation of Mr. Lamarck, we're going to have a short discussion in the panel of Mrs. Zdoukou, Dr. Mohina, and Mrs. Terstal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Going green is geopolitical. We've heard it already several times this morning. It is more than ever. The events of the last couple of months have shown us that there's only one sustainable way forward: decreasing our energy import from Russia and increasing the share of green energy within the mix. The energy challenges posed by Russia's military aggression in Ukraine has come on top of the task of transitioning to green energy in the next decades. We have to avoid a worldwide climate catastrophe. In a context where solar and wind have become the cheapest energy source, while our system has historically been modeled on fossil fuels. We should not let acute problems cause long-term harm to the planet. It is inevitable in the short term to substitute our fossil energy imports from Russia with other fossil alternatives. At the same time, we have to double down on our renewable energy and energy efficiency targets, even when this is hard. Energy and climate transition favors the bold. The sooner one greenifies, the lower the cost will be at a later stage. Greece and the Netherlands are in this together. Our energy future is more electric, integrated, and digital. In the EU, we are all facing the same challenges. We are all interconnected through our electricity networks. What we need to do is three things: more energy efficiency, speeding up the energy transition, and more diversification of fossil fuel importers. The need to enhance energy efficiency is visible since energy prices started increasing last year. Much more efficiency is crucial to become more energy independent and also to keep energy affordable. I give you an example of the Netherlands. The Netherlands has set up a national government program to isolate 2.5 million homes before 2030. In addition, we launched campaigns with financial incentives, both national and on the municipal level, to persuade homeowners and renters to invest in energy efficiency. At the same time, our government is discussing with companies and especially industries how to decrease the demand for gas. High prices and a relatively warm winter helped us. Our gas demand in the first 5 months of this year was about 30% lower compared to previous years. Now is the time to replace fossil fuels with renewable energy sources, including through the European Fit for 55 package. The Netherlands focuses on upping the goals on green hydrogen, green gas, and accelerated electrification. A key area within this for Greece and the Netherlands is wind at sea, where both countries have great potential. We therefore welcome the rapid publication of the Greek framework on offshore wind and look forward to exploring how we can cooperate in this field. In the short term, replacing fossil with fossil will be necessary to move away from Russian energy. Like the Netherlands, Greece is in the position to supply not only its own energy needs, but also that of its neighbors. We welcome the ambition and steps taken by the government to provide an alternative to Russian energy to its neighbors in the Balkans. Like Greece, The Netherlands is in the process of increasing its storage capacity of liquefied natural gas and will add 2 multi-functioning floating terminals in the north of the country. Together with expanding capacity at the existing terminal near Rotterdam, this will double our country's capacity this year. In my first year as ambassador of the Netherlands here in Greece, I've seen the ways that climate changes affect us all. For instance, through fires and heat waves and heavy snow here in Greece. In the Netherlands and neighboring countries, there have been floods last summer. At the same time, I have also seen the efforts that are made to combat climate change and ensure energy security. What I have seen gives me hope for the future. More and more, we are able to successfully combine the technological solutions from the private sector and political willingness from the public sector. The opportunities for cooperation in this energy transition are incredible. So I want to focus on 3 areas where I think Greece and the Netherlands can benefit from each other's expertise and geographical potential, namely offshore wind, green hydrogen, and circularity. On offshore wind, we share with Greece the presence of windy shores. Dutch companies are among the leaders in technology and services concerning offshore wind, including floating wind parks. In March of this year, the Dutch government has doubled its ambition on wind energy at sea to 21 gigawatt in 2030, therewith becoming one of the leaders in Europe. We're eager to discuss mutual opportunities on offshore wind with Greece. The second area of possible cooperation is green hydrogen as an alternative to natural gas. Both Greece and the Netherlands have ambitions to become regional hubs when it comes to green hydrogen. The only way to do that is through innovation. How governments can best stimulate innovation and research on the production, storage, transport, infrastructure, and application of green hydrogen is an important and timely topic. And we are happy to compare experiences and best practices. We know that Greece is working hard on this. And then the third point, circularity. Building circular economies within our countries is a crucial aspect in sustainable use of resources. This requires building systems that center around reuse. The Netherlands is a global leader in this respect. The city of Amsterdam is a good example. Greece works hard in moving towards circularity on the islands. As an example, the island of Tilos. This has the highest recycling rate of any island in the world. It is these innovative places that will form the examples in moving to a circular economy on a larger scale. We look forward to establishing an exchange of ideas around these successes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Terstal, for your interesting talk. And I think we're going to proceed to our next talk with Mr. José Manuel Lamarck, a reporter from France Inter, journalist specializing in geopolitics in Europe. The talk is going to be through the web. Hello, Mr. Lamarck. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Κυρίες και κύριοι, σας ευχαριστώ που με έχετε σήμερα. Dear friends, thank you for receiving me today concerning the strategy of the European Union and the question of the Eastern Mediterranean. I will concentrate on giving you my opinion as a specialist in geopolitics. What an energy strategy for the European Union, one of 4 decades. Many of us have been campaigning for a real European energy policy based on 2 main axes. The first energies are a weapon. The second is an energy diplomacy that must exist. for 2 long years, this has been ignored, while water has become the blue gold, natural gas and electricity are instruments of negotiation. An energy strategy for the European Union is possible, yes, certainly, on the condition not of harmonization, but of coordination of the present forces, taking into account the geopolitical character of each state without even and ever forgetting diplomacy energy, a diplomacy that the European Union does not possess. It would be stupid to think of a global energy for the European Union, but an energy identified for each state. An example, France has a nuclear energy, which is a good and clean energy, therefore not polluting. Why today going back to coal-fired power stations, which are the worst pollution concerning energy? Let's talk about hydroelectricity, provided that the dams in Europe are in good or bad condition. Another question. Without speaking about sun, wind, green hydrogen, and waves energy, when we will understand the energy we can get from waves? All subjects are valid on the condition that we have the means for a European energy policy that we do not have today. Why? Because the economic and financial crisis of the 2010 showed that Europe was not united and that, on the contrary, certain member states had not hesitated to place the weight of this crisis in Greece, this which has been the greatest European injustice since the creation of the European Union. Having an energy policy means giving yourself the means for an energy policy on the condition of having a common strategy. Today, the war shows us that once again, Europe is divided, and this because it was not prepared for such a situation. Behind the speeches, there must be action for the moment that only action we see after the speeches are actions that go against the interest of European consumers. Regarding the Eastern Mediterranean, it must be clear, does the European Union give itself the means of a policy and diplomacy in the face of a strong state that cannot be ignored, which is Turkey? Are we Europeans ready to put in place a real energy policy in this part of the Mediterranean, with so many political players, so many states, which somewhere plays their own game? We absolutely must support and help Greece both in an energy policy and a real policy of European cooperation in all areas. Once again, all of this only a question of political will. And the question of war today shows us that weakness of the European Union accumulated over many decades when we had the means to set up an energy plan of the future, and I repeat, this accompanied by energy diplomacy. It's never too late, although we lost a lot of time. Our strength is to be able to adapt quickly. Today, we can no longer allow ourselves to be observers, but we must be actors able to place energy diplomacy beyond national interest, but beyond the interests of the European continent, because it is of the European continent, which means that we cannot ignore an important part of this continent. It is this condition that we will have the means to extend our energy diplomacy to the member states around the Mediterranean, which are privileged partners of Europe. Energy today is a guarantee of peace and should not divide people. Let us have this cleverness. Σας ευχαριστώ που με ακούσατε και για την προσήλωση σας. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
So thank you very much, Mr. Lamarck, for the last talk. So I would like now to call to the podium Mrs. Zdoukou, Dr. Mohina, and Mrs. Terstal for a short discussion. If you could please come in the podium, please. We're running out of time. You may have here, please. So first of all, zero. Είμαστε εντάξει, μπορούμε να ξεκινήσουμε. So first of all, thank you very much for all of you that you came here and participated in the real world in this Congress here in Crete. Everybody, of course, I understand, has its specialization and it's difficult to cover all the issues. We're going to have a short discussion because we are running out of time due to the problems we had with the power. So I have a general question for all of you. First, if you consider that the gas and perhaps when I'm talking for gas, I mean for production, for indigenous production of each country, if we consider that it's going to be important for the next 2 or 3 decades in the power generally production because of the problems we faced the last time and the last period of time. And of course, this goes to everyone here. And we'll continue with the next question. So what do you believe about gas, about natural gas or biogenic gas? Each of you for your country and for Europe as well.
Shall I start? Yes, but I'm sure that my colleagues here will have significant input to add. And let me congratulate you, first of all, for your very interesting interventions and the input you gave us. Spiros, I think that the energy transition is the biggest challenge today for all countries and all societies. And the success of this energy transition, I think that presupposes, I would say, apart from, of course, increasing new sources of energy, renewable sources of energy, presupposes also the energy security, how we are going to secure our energy system, and of course how we will secure an affordable energy for everyone. So either we like it or not, for the next 25 to 30 years, I would say, the natural gas will definitely play its important role. We all say that it will be a bridge fuel. As we move towards a world, a decarbonized world. If we want, therefore, to secure, let's say, our energy security, we can do this, of course, through a number of energy infrastructure projects, and Greece is in a position today to have an important number of projects, either already working or others under construction, but also I think that's very important for Greece to develop its, as you mentioned, its indigenous energy resources. If we want to overcome this energy crisis, I think that we should take advantage of all potential energy sources. Now, where do we stand today in this sector? You know very well, Spiros, because you're engaged in this project of hydrocarbons. As I was, we were the persons that a few years ago worked with a lot of passion on how to open the file of hydrocarbon exploration and production in Greece. But according to the data we have in Greece today, Greece can possess, I would say, significant sources of natural gas on its underground source. The latest year, the exploration, I think, has moved to deeper waters, which are away from coast, and especially in areas where previously were never explored. And already, I think, at the beginning of the year, we had 2 big seismic surveys conducted in Ionian by Hellenic Petroleum. So the government, and I think that the Prime Minister himself personally has made clear that we are going to exhaust any effort in Greece in order to mature, first of all, the surveys that are necessary, if we want to give at least an answer to the main question: does Greece have indigenous sources, hydrocarbon sources, or not? This is something that we don't know yet on a scientific way. And we owe this, I think, to the people of Greece to have a clear answer on that. And this is why the Prime Minister has declared these projects as projects of national importance. So within this framework, what we have today, we have assigned to our national hydrocarbons company to move forward in cooperation with the petroleum companies, the investors we have, in order to accelerate the surveys. And we have also created a task force within ministry, and this task force explores ways in order not to have unnecessary delays in the processes, and especially in the permitting processes, because one of the things that people counter-argue is that Greece has delayed a lot. And this is true. And one of the reasons that this effort, this national effort, has been delayed in the past, when there was a good momentum for Greece, was various permitting delays and sometimes court decisions, etc. So if we really want to accelerate this effort in the next 2 years, and at least have a clear and definite answer on the question, has Greece commercially exploitable deposits or not, I think here is where the role of state comes in, to facilitate these investments, to help them with taking all the necessary permits, and on the other hand, it's the role of the investors to put their money and do the job.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Dougou. It was very clear, the position. Mr. Mohidi, I don't know if there is a connection. You can say us a few words about the gas in Egypt.
Yes, and first of all, thank you for inviting me to participate in this panel, and thank you for your excellency. The crisis of Ukraine and Russia showed that it is very critical and very dangerous to depend on the one kind of energy source. So it is very important now to push and accelerate all efforts and all actions to move toward this energy transition. Now to move to the energy transition phase by using renewable energy, especially renewable energy resources, it is very important. Yes, there were some challenges regarding the availability and the reliability of renewable energy in the past. But now, regarding the modification and the improvement of capabilities of energy storage and so on, so it is a very good opportunity to depend on the renewable energy to decrease and to minimize the emissions to face the climate change challenges, and also to diversify all kinds of energy sources, not depend only on the fossil fuel such as oil and gas and so on, but also to give the opportunity for renewable energy. Now, the cost of renewable energy became more compete with the fossil fuel energy, but regarding the energy storage of solar energy, especially to the night, it is very important to depend on the new technology regarding that. Also, we can depend on the electrical interconnection. The north of Africa and the Arab region has a good capabilities in the field of solar and wind energy. If we can encourage and enhance our regional cooperation in the field of electrical interconnection, it will be a very good opportunity to enhance and secure energy to Europe continent. And I would like here to mention that we have a very good opportunity to cooperate for cooperation between Egypt and Greece to export or to exchange around 3,000 megawatts from renewable energy. We can maximize this capacity to be around 6 gigawatts in the near future. By using the submarine cables, there is some challenges regarding the depths of Mediterranean Sea, but now regarding the new technologies of submarine cables, I think this problem can be solved, and yes, it will be solved in cooperation with the international developers. I think my colleague from Kobeliusis and the ELICA group can discuss this issue with us in Egypt, and I think the enhancement of regional and international cooperation, it must be the very big issue now to push and to accelerate international cooperation in this regard. To conclude, I would like to be focused on the renewable energy, energy storage, electrical interconnection in the region.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohina. Just a question to you, because I've seen in your slide that this pipeline, let's say, or cable, better, let's say, the power cable, just goes to the south of Crete and then it turns to the north, but it doesn't go directly to Crete. So what is the plan? The plan is not going to Crete, going directly to Peloponnesus, or there is a plan of...
I'm not a suitable person to
I don't know if you know.
This, it's a private project.
I have two scenarios. First one, to interconnect between Egypt, Cyprus, and Greece. another scenario to interconnect between Egypt directly with Greece, moving to the Crete, and from Crete to
so you are still studying this scenario?
Yes, because the length between Egypt and the Crete around 900 kilometers. And the challenge of depth of Mediterranean Sea is very big challenge, but I think after the improvement of new technologies, the problem can be solved now.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
So, Mrs. Derstal, your opinion?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much for this interesting conference, and to the speakers. If you would have asked that question at the start of this year, I would have said we have to work on the energy transition and we have to do that as quickly as possible. I still believe that. But it is clear, and you mentioned this, the energy security at the moment is so pressing that it changes the debate a little bit, or better, it throws something in the debate but we didn't foresee at the start of this year, and we're only in June. But that poses issues that were also unforeseen. So yes, it means we have to continue with natural gas. But I want to bring up here the discussion we have in the Netherlands. The Netherlands had a big find of natural gas in the 50s. It brought a lot of prosperity to the country. But we're facing the problems now. The discussions in the Netherlands are about how are we compensating the people who live in the areas that are affected by the earthquakes caused by the exploration of natural gas. Now, I realize that when you are working in the deep sea, this is different, but you will be facing other issues. So as long as we're working with fossil fuels, there are also issues attached to this that we then have to face as well. So the energy transition, I think, is key, and the European Union with the Fit for 55 package is really working very hard on that. And how quickly it changes. As an ambassador, you're responsible for helping your businesses, right? They come to you and they say, how do we get access to a country? 10 years ago, I became ambassador to Angola, and after that, I was ambassador to Iran. And I was basically talking to fossil fuel companies. Now, I'm talking to companies who are in offshore wind, on floating platforms, the whole green transition. And this change has come about really quickly. So that still makes me an optimist for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And another question now directly on this issue, because you mentioned all these offshore wind parks and wind farms. So I wanted to ask you if there is any cooperation. You talked about motivation, about modern methods, about all these things, and I would like to ask you if there is any cooperation between your country and some Greek companies, because we're very much interested, and I think with the new licensing law that recently, I think yesterday, it was voted, I don't remember exactly, we are trying to make the life better and to invest in another way much easier. So is there any cooperation, do you know, about all this? Because we as Institute of Geoenergy, we are very much interested in this. I'm working also with geotechnics, submarine geotechnics also. So if there is something you can share with us, please.
There is cooperation. Dutch companies are talking to Greek companies and to the Greek government, because of course a lot of this cooperation is business to business, and we try to facilitate that as much as possible. Innovation normally doesn't come from the government. We can give the incentives for innovation, but it's the companies that have to do it. And for instance, very recently I was talking to a company that is doing exactly this, wind energy on floating platforms, because with the depth of the Mediterranean, you don't want to go all the way down. plus you increase your flexibility, and then turn it into green hydrogen, so it becomes shippable. And I think for Crete, for instance, this could be very, very interesting.
Thank you.
So the opportunities are there.
Thank you very much. So, Mrs. Duco,
I
perhaps
fully
can share some...
agree, Ambassador. I don't know if you can hear me. But anyway, regarding offshore wind potential, first of all, it's a pity that Greece didn't exploit this opportunity in the last 10 years, let's say. Of course, we had perhaps other priorities. Greece had an economic crisis, and Greece was not quite ambitious in its energy policy. But this government has set this project as a top priority. And this is why one of the things that we have examined in the ministry during the last year was how we will, first of all, create a transparent and competitive regulatory framework that will open these investments in Greece. And you're very right. I think that Crete is an area where offshore wind parks can be developed here, and why not create a new energy, why not Mediterranean hub through offshore wind parks. I think that it has a great potential here. Given the fact that around 10 years ago there was a ministerial decision that stopped the licensing process of these projects, we wanted to start from scratch, but setting very clear rules. And as I said, create a market here and create also a success story. So we are in a position, in the pleasant position to have completed this work. It took us a long time, almost a year, I would say, because we wanted to examine all good practices from other countries, and Netherlands was one of the countries that our technical team took into account. So what you did there to give the concessions to the investors and how they developed these under what licensing procedures, environmental, special planning, etc. So we have done this exercise, and we have come up now with a robust regulatory framework that is ready to be launched for public consultation. It is ready, and following the public consultation, our purpose is to adopt it to the Parliament within the next month. And after that, I think that we will kick off the effort. On the high level, I will tell you that the aim of Greece is to have 2 gigawatts of offshore wind parks commissioned by 2030. The time is not, it's limited, so we have to hurry up, and this is why we wanted to create a framework that will not remain on papers, but it will give the opportunity for those who are really interested. And we know that there are now, this technology is already mature in several countries. Greece is interested for both technologies, both for floating wind parks, yes, but also bottom fixed. Yeah. Given that the floating perhaps still needs to be tested a little bit more in order to create economies of scales and bigger wind parks. We are going to start quite soon. The good thing is that we have mapped the Greek seas, and we know where there are the suitable sites, the most appropriate one. We have examined all the restrictions on these areas, the environmental ones, the ones that are related to the special planning we have, The rules that other competent ministries have given us, like Ministry of Defense or Maritime, of course, because there are everywhere restrictions. But during this exercise, we have cleaned the areas, and we know with which we can start this effort. So this is going to be, I think, a tool for the investor that is going to help him ultimately to proceed very quickly with the licensing procedures in order to start developing. But I'm very confident that this is going to be a really success story for Greece in the next years.
Great. No, if I can just comment on that, thank you so much, because I'm getting questions from Dutch companies. When is the framework coming out? So it's
true that we have delayed it.
So definitely is interest. Yeah.
So thank you very much. Dr. Mahidi, what is the situation with the offshore wind farms? Do you have some? Do you plan something? Or it's
Till now in Egypt we haven't any offshore wind, but we have a very big potential in the offshore, in the onshore. Now the land allocated for the wind project in Egypt around 5,200 kilometers square can accommodate around 20 or 25 gigawatt from wind energy. It is a huge potential. But frankly speaking, the last months, our minister decided to renew our survey to explore new areas for wind, for onshore wind, and also for offshore wind. Still, offshore wind is higher, and the cost is higher than onshore. But I think when we look forward to maximize the potential of renewable energy, we need to utilize and to use all available resources, onshore and offshore. Yes, and at the same time, I fully agree with Her Excellency, the Secretary General, regarding some limitations of other ministries and other sectors, such as Maritime and the Ministry of Defense. I would like to mention that we succeeded to raise the hub heights of wind energy in Egypt from 120 meters to be now 220 meters in Egypt, all over the area of Egypt now, under the approval of Minister of Defense. So the potential and the opportunity in Egypt is open now, and is very big opportunity for all developers. And we have a plan to maximize our renewable energy to be 42% by 2035. So we look forward to any area can add additional renewable energy capacities in our. But we are ready, and we are open to cooperate in this field and this area with our partners from Netherlands, from Greece, and I think offshore it will be a very competitive in the near future.
So thank you very much. I think we're running out of time. We're already about an hour late. Thank you very much for being here, for participating, for talking, for taking also all these important ideas of yours into account. I think we should finish this first part of discussions and talks, and we're going to proceed in the next one. Thank you very much. Welcome. So I don't know if you are ready to proceed with the web connections for the next talk of Mr. Kremlis. Are we ready, or do we need some extra time? What the answers? Είμαστε έτοιμοι. Α, οκ. Τον έχει ενημερώσει κάποιος ότι είχαμε μια ώρα
Κάποιος άλλος ομιλητής και να μιλήσω εγώ μετά.
So Mr. George Kremlis is our next talker here. He's a principal advisor to the Greek Prime Minister of Energy, Climate, Environment and Circular Economy issues, and a distinguished person in the academia and the Academy of Sciences. Good morning, Mr. Kremlis. We have been a little bit out of time, but we're pleased to have you here. Thank you very much for being here, and you may start your talk. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be with you. I was in a parallel online panel. I had to interrupt, but I'm very pleased to be given the possibility now to take the floor. I just wanted to share with you few key messages related to the important topics that this very timely Congress is addressing. The first one is that as now the conference on the future of Europe has ended and we need to draw the conclusions and decide on the next steps, I believe it is time to reflect on a new treaty amending the Lisbon Treaty with a full-fledged energy union. I think the time now has come to develop the weak energy framework currently existing with one article in the treaty on the function of the European Union and develop a full-fledged energy union together with the defense union, etc., etc. There are other improvements, health, migration that we can bring to the existing treaty. And in that respect, I would like to refer to the previous treaty on the European Community of Steel and Coal, where the steel and coal resources of the EU were managed collectively. So this can give us ideas for an energy union, a full energy union to develop in the future with the full energy grid, with a sharing of resources, with solidarity and with other mechanisms which are to be developed, drawing lessons from the current crisis. That's the first point. The second point I wanted to share with you is that we need to make sure that the energy crisis, the energy and the energy poverty, as well as the fact that there is no energy security currently within the EU, do not undermine the energy transition and the goal of the Green Deal and the European climate law on becoming climate neutral and, of course, on reducing emissions by 2030 by 55%. It is a difficult exercise as because of the war, the energy crisis has been exacerbated and the process to green transition, to green energy transition has been delayed in some countries. This is something we need to keep in mind. The third point I wanted to make is the Repower EU. This is a strong response from the European Union and moreover, in the last Council, it has been decided that a social climate fund will be developed. So the European Union is now developing new frameworks, new ideas under Repower EU, to ensure boosting renewables, phasing out from Russian gas and hydrocarbons, promoting hydrogen, and of course improving energy efficiency, which is also extremely important. The next point I wanted to make is that we need, as the EU has no energy resources referring to gas and hydrocarbons, we need to promote new energy resources through exploration where this is possible within the EU. And of course, we need to exploit the resources of Eastern Mediterranean. And in that respect, the Cypriot resources, Cyprus being a member state of the EU, are EU resources. And to these EU resources, one could add the Israeli resources and the Egyptian resources, which are important in the region. And in that respect, I would like to refer to the PCIs, to the Project of Common Interest, in terms of cables, Euro-Asia, Euro-Africa, but also to EastMed. We need to keep EastMed alive. We need to keep it on the radar. It is an extremely important project. Now, in this period of energy crisis and of scarcity of resources, it can be considered as an emblematic project, be supported fully by the EU as well as by the international community to promote the diversification of the energy sources and to bring gas to the European Union. It is something that we can make bankable if we want, if there is political will, as the conditions are now met. Last consideration, Egypt. There have been references to Egypt. I was in Egypt a few days ago. Egypt is not only hosting COP27 in November, but is becoming a green hub for green electricity and in the future for hydrogen. They have water, they have renewables. We can, with the help of the European Union and foreign investments, boost further the development of renewables and the production of hydrogen in Egypt. And of course, there are important projects to connect Egypt through a cable. This is the Gregi project, to Attica, the region of Athens, to bring green energy from Egypt to Greece and through the European grid to the other countries of the European Union. And of course, in the future, to combine this with a pipeline to bring also gas and subsequently hydrogen from Egypt to Greece and to the European Union. In Greece, we are now developing further the LNG of Redifousa with a floating complement. We have the FSRU in Alexandroupolis. There are plans to develop 2 more, up to 3 more FSRUs. So there is capacity to host LNG, but the important thing is to develop stable connections, electricity cables and pipelines, as the stable connections through long-term contracts are those who can ensure security, energy security, and reasonable prices compared to the ad hoc movements of gas from different countries which are selling the current gas and which have benefited a lot from the current crisis, as the prices of gas where they are produced other than in Russia have increased a lot. And one has to say that illegal competition phenomena have also arisen because of this situation of the war and the suspension of the provision of gas from Gazprom to several countries of the European Union. These are the considerations I wanted to share with you. There is room to improve the situation. The European Union is developing new tools. I think we need also to exploit the political decision to have purchases undertaken by the European Union as such, as we did with the vaccines, to ensure that sufficient quantities of gas will be purchased. And an important point is the new regulation on gas storage for those countries who do not have gas storage capacity. This is the case of Greece. Bulgaria and Italy has storage capacity. And according to this proposal, we need the countries that do not have storage capacity, namely Greece, we need to store 15% of our needs in another country which has such a capacity. In our case, it will be either Bulgaria or Italy, or possibly a possible share between the two countries. These are initiatives which show that we can do more in the context of an energy union to be further developed. And with these last words, I would like to thank you for the opportunity that I was given to be part of this important conference.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kremlis, for your interesting talk, and I'm very pleased to hear that EastMed should be alive and is alive there, particularly for us here in Crete. And it's very interesting and very important to talking about stable connections, and also for the storage, because also our institute here is very much interested in finding and exploring storage sites in Greece and not out of Greece. So we would very much like to come in contact with you and find out financial support opportunities for looking for storage sites within Greece, because we have a lot of experience in the geological subsurface of Greece. Thank you very much.
There is, let me just add a point on this very interesting remark that you have made. There is a storage possibility in Kavala, as you know.
Yes.
But it is very interesting to hear you and to have this information that your institute has ideas in that respect, and there are geological solutions that can be exploited. That we need really to have in mind to avoid storing gas in other countries. If we can do it in Greece, it is preferable, as this will have no cost for our country. And I would like to add to this that the storage issue, the batteries in general for renewables are extremely important, as well as the extension of the grid to boost renewables as much as we can in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kremlis. So we have to proceed to the next talk. I don't know if Mr. Karidas is there. Ο κύριος Καρίδας.
Hello, can you hear me?
Πάρα πολύ ωραία. Δεν σας βλέπουμε, αλλά σας ακούμε.
Έχω ανοίξει την κάμερα, δεν ξέρω αν...
Εδώ τα παιδιά θα μας συνδέσουν καλύτερα, δεν ξέρω. Μήπως
Εγώ σας βλέπω πάντως, κύριε Καρίδα. Καλημέρα.
Καλημέρα, τι κάνετε?
Είναι καλά.
Και εγώ σας βλέπω όλους, πώς δεν ξέρω αν χρειάζεται η τεχνική υποστήριξη να βοηθήσει.
Σας βλέπουμε και εμείς. Γεια σας.
Καλημέρα.
Good morning.
Συγγνώμη για το χρόνο που έχουμε την καθυστέρηση, αλλά έχει...
We're sorry for the delay. We had some issues. No problem. The most important thing that very important topics are being heard today by the distinguished...
Όπως θέλετε, βεβαίως.
I will speak in English.
First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for the very kind invitation. for me to participate in this very interesting conference and panel with the other esteemed speakers. Energy is by definition a very hot and important topic today more than ever. And also having Egypt as a non-honored country is extremely important because besides the long and close relationships and friendship that exist between the people of the two countries, as well as the mutual respect, Egypt can prove to be a very important partner and ally in the field of energy because the country has an extremely strong energy production capability, not only in natural gas, but also in green energy. We have heard this morning the representative of the Egyptian Ministry of Electricity and Renewables about the very ambitious plans to expand the capacity of renewable energy projects in Greece. So this is very important. We all know that the pillar of Europe's energy strategy is based on the electrification of the energy systems and their supply of clean energy in order to tackle the climate crisis, while at the same time making Europe independent on fossil fuels and on Russian natural gas. As Copelouzos Group, we strongly believe that without electricity connections with third countries which have the potential to export sufficient quantities of clean energy, the transition to green energy will take additional time, and hence the dependency on natural gas of Europe will continue. Having recognized such need for electrical interconnection projects, Copelouzos Group, through our subsidiary Elica, has been developing in collaboration with the Egyptian Ministry of Electricity and Renewables and the Egyptian transmission operator, a key project, that of the electrical interconnection between Egypt and Greece. We started this interconnection back in year 2008, and we signed the first agreement with Egypt in year 2010. This project plans to interconnect directly Egypt with Attica, Greece mainland, in order to transfer 100% clean energy. We know that Egypt has a very ambitious plan, as we said, to install around 61 gigawatts of renewable energy projects by year 2035. So we all understand there will be a surplus of green energy to transfer to Europe via Greece. Our project will have a capacity of 3,000 megawatts with a bidirectional transmission capability. And we believe that for technical, environmental and financial reasons, connecting directly Egypt with Attica, mainland Greece, without any intermediate connecting points, is the only viable solution for interconnecting Greece with Egypt. The estimated length of the submarine cable is around 950 kilometers, because the present route bypasses the exclusive economic zone of Libya. The estimated budget is around 3.5 billion euro, and we have received a very strong expression of interest, both by Greek banks as well as international financial institutions, both European and American, to provide long-term finance for the project. Our group has completed the preliminary studies, both pre-feasibility study and technical study, and now we're in discussions with the Egyptian Electricity Holding Company and the Egyptian transmission operator and the Greek operator ADMIE to proceed with the final feasibility studies and engineering study in order to reach the final investment decision. It's important to say that according to a study we have done with a Greek university, the implementation of this project will enhance the transfer capacity of the existing interconnections between Greece and European Union countries, namely Italy and Bulgaria, by at least 700 megawatts. The project has been included in the 10-year network development plan of the European Transmission System Operators, which made it eligible to be included in the next PCI PMI list, which will open doors for faster permitting and access to European sources of funds. Also, we aim to include this project to Repower EU plan, and the Greek government has already proposed the project to be included in this plan. And we believe that we have the ability, together with our partners, to accelerate and expedite its implementation to be concluded within 2.5, 3 years after final investment decision. Why we believe that this project is strategic? It is strategic not only for Egypt and Greece, but for the whole of Europe. First of all, the transfer of 3,000 megawatts of clean energy obviously contributes significantly both to the tackling the climate crisis and the greenhouse effect prevention, but most importantly, provide energy differentiation, provide energy security for Europe, and especially green energy. Hence, it will help to reduce the dependency of Greece and Europe on fossil fuels, namely natural gas, and especially on Russian natural gas. Just to give you 2-3 numbers to show you the significance of this project, the transfer of 3,000 megawatts of clean energy can help to reduce the requirement of around 4.5 BCM, billion cubic meters of natural gas on an annual basis. Last year, Greece consumed 6.1 BCM, out of which 3.3 came from Russia. So you understand that the implementation of such a project will release Greece from Russian natural gas and also will provide neighboring European Union countries to benefit also from such clean energy. Besides that, these 3,000 megawatts of clean energy will help to reduce CO2 emissions by 10 million tons per year. So we understand that in this way, Greece becomes an energy hub in the region, and especially a green energy hub in the region. And also the routing of the cable, which has been very carefully designed, strengthens the sovereign rights of Greece and of its exclusive economic zones. So we strongly believe that electrical interconnections, as Mr. Kremli said a few minutes ago, show the strategic direction in which Europe must move forward in the context of its energy independence from fossil fuels and Russian natural gas, and towards achieving energy differentiation and safety. So we try, in collaboration with the Greek government and the Egyptian government, to expedite all our steps towards fast implementation of the project. And we believe that this is a project that is very important for all three parties involved: Egypt, Greece, and Europe. Copelousis Group, you know that we have activities in renewable energy for more than 25 years. I very carefully attended the discussion a few minutes ago on offshore wind parks. We have 2 production licenses there, but I chose to present to you this project because of its extreme significance, very important significance, in our effort to reduce dependency on Russian natural gas and achieve a very fast green energy transition, both for Greece and Europe as a whole. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Karidas. Σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ. Πολύ ενδιαφέροντα όλα και τα 2 production licenses που είπατε ότι έχετε για τα αιωλικά.
The 2 production licenses for the wind parks and the interconnector cable, which, as we said, will be very good to pass through Crete as well.
next talk, which is by Mr. Ahmed Tarek Saleh from the El Suwaidi, Egypt. Mr. Tarek Saleh, please come to the podium. You have a presentation, or it's going to be a speech talk?
Which one? No. Hello everyone, we're Calamera. Just learned this yesterday. Apologies for my Greek.
Thank you.
It's an honor being here. Your Excellencies, honorable esteemed guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. My plan for the presentation in the beginning was speaking more about El Suwaidi Electric, the Egyptian company, telling you more about it. But after coming here and listening to everyone talking from their hearts, with showing true dedication and passion and honesty towards the subject matter, I thought I might just do the same. And honestly, of course, I will be going briefly about El Suwaidi Electric as a whole, full group, also focusing on the how we are in the renewable energy business, how we are interested in green hydrogen, and of course, the being a key player in the interconnector. So with that being said, let me start by saying this. I arrived yesterday, just yesterday, and I had the time to go and enjoy the sun, enjoy the beach, and I'm not saying this out of context, and I'll tell you how. Since we have similar beaches, nice wind, nice water, right across the Mediterranean in Egypt, and I'm saying this inside the context in a way that these resources are a gift that we should be glad that we have them, and not just for our leisure, but also we can enjoy them through having a sustainable, clean source of energy and electricity. We've heard this so many different times today, and in recent times, people speaking about the importance of energy security. It always have been important, but maybe not as important as these days. Previously, people were talking about climate change, perhaps only as a first world problem. But I believe that in recent times, we all have seen that it's not just a first world problem, but it is essential, key, and it is a major challenge that we should all be focusing on solving for the betterment of all of us. We have faced so many different, people call them crises, over the past 3 years, maybe more than we have faced for the last 20 years, together after the pandemic, the geopolitical shifts. All of them have led to a huge blow to all the hopes of going green, the hopes of going sustainable, with different talks we're hearing here and there about people going back to fossil fuels, to hydrocarbons. However, we should not lose focus on the main goal. People call them crises. I tend to use a different language. I tend to call them challenges. As we all know, all of the different innovations that came across the history, it came and it arose during the hardest of times. Everything was going with the climate change ways of mitigating them, but we were very reluctant on them. We were being very slow. People are having a wake-up call with all that is happening nowadays, and only now with these kind of conferences, people are getting together again, different parties, the multilateralism, collaboration between the public sector, and on top of that, we should not forget the importance of the private sector in this equation as well. As we all heard, all the people that were speaking truly from their heart and caring so much about their country, it is important to highlight how Engineer Ahmed Al-Suwaidi, who is the managing director of our company, is not just a great engineer, is not just a great businessman, but when you hear him talk and when you see the different projects that he's working on, he's a true patriot that loves his country, and I can see that people here share the same sentiment. So with that being said, let me give you a very brief introduction about Al-Suwaidi Electric, the different energy, different sectors, because it's not just in the energy, and a very brief history of the company. Of course, this presentation I usually take more than 30 minutes giving it, but just for the limitation of time, I'll be running through it. Suwaidi actually started in 1938 by a Suwaidi family. It was just an electronic trader equipment. Moving forward all the way to 2006, when Al-Suwaidi have been listed under the name Al-Suwaidi Electric, since it was Al-Suwaidi Cables beforehand, and this is how they started with the different cables manufacturers all around the world. First started in Egypt, then expanded in Africa, and now they have several all around the world. And you will see in a few minutes the map which shows all the different places that Al-Suwaidi is present. Moving all the way to 2019, which was the first presence in the renewable energy sector by developing two projects in Bimban, Egypt. Mr. Mahina was just speaking about it. One of the largest solar parks in the world. Right now, it's the largest, fourth, with our partner EDF. And we have also made several acquisitions in Greece for several wind farms that I'll be speaking in a few minutes. This is just a map of where we're present. Suwaidi Electric is $1 billion corporate present all around the world, and not just in the electricity and energy market, but also construction, also in smart infrastructure, electrical products, cables and wires, and full EPC turnkey solutions. These are just some figures that I will very briefly run you through. Here are the different subsidiaries working on the different service that we have, the power generation, the combined cycles under the PSP company, power transmission distribution, T&D, which was one of the key players in creating all the substations, many of the substations around Africa. Ruwad, our construction arm, also Al-Suwaidi Power, or right now Energy, which is responsible for the renewable energy development projects, and many different partners or subsidiaries who are involved in the digitalization. These are just very quick numbers here in EGP, but let me quickly do the math. Just last year, the revenues for Al-Suwaidi Electric was north of $3 billion. This is just a slide on the renewables and the IPP sector for Al-Suwaidi Electric, having a revenue from both the Greek and solar projects in Egypt, almost of a $20 million every year, just this sector alone. This was just more info about the team structure, the asset management, info about the different projects that we have here in Greece. We have 3 wind farms and 1 small hydro plant. They're powering almost 35,000 households by clean renewable energy, sustainable energy, having a total 64 megawatt installed capacity, saving around 100K of ton of CO2 every year. These are just some of our partners that we partnered with on this project. We have the National Bank of Greece, our lenders, White & Case, Ernst & Young, and tractable NG. Moving forward to the projects that we have in Bimba in Egypt, we have 2 projects developed in collaboration with EDF of a total capacity of 130 megawatts, saving around 160,000 tons of carbon dioxide each year. Again, some metrics and some of our partners, we're having our lenders, Proparco and EBRD, which, by the way, we just acquired this recent week a huge loan from EBRD of $150 million for the further expansion of the different manufacturing plants of El Suwaidi, and also investing more in the renewable energy. Very recently, we have been on the talk and the conversation of green hydrogen. We believe that hydrogen is the key for completing the cycle of powering the globe with renewable energy. As you all know, that renewables, so far they're getting cheaper, they are sustainable, they are clean. However, they still have the intermittent problems, which they are not available all the time. So we need to find a way to store this energy. We need to find a clean way to store this energy. And we believe that hydrogen is one of the key solutions to this. This is why our interest in green hydrogen, whole department focused just on this. And also, as we heard so many times today and very recently in the news, the interconnection between Europe and Africa, since we're all seeing right now how the geopolitical situation is affecting us, this leads to more innovative solutions. This leads to collaboration between continents, not just countries anymore. Since Africa has a lot of untapped resources, as was shown previously by Mr. Mahina. And this is one of the key solutions of transferring, having this energy corridor between both continents. El Suwaidi is very interested in being a key player into this mega project, not just on the EPC side of the different substations and the providing the cables, but also on the generation side and the development of the generation renewable energy projects on Egypt and the North Africa side of the equation. With that being said, I would like to conclude by saying that we at El Suwaidi believe in providing an affordable and clean, sustainable future for the future generations, all while doing it at the top and highest quality. We appreciate so much the invitation, having us here. We enjoy the country as if it is our own. The hospitality is amazing. Extremely looking forward to the upcoming few days, meeting all of you, getting to know you, and of course, perhaps see you next year in Egypt. As you know, they're hosting the COP27 at Egypt, so it would be great to have you and perhaps give back some little of this hospitality that was shown by you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tarek, for your interesting speak and introducing us to the El Suwaidi opportunities and services. So we are going to proceed to the next talk. Mr. Charles Elinas. Is Charles there? Hi, Charles.
I am indeed.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Fine. So we are pleased to have you here and to hear your ideas on the issue you have and the theme you have to present us.
I'm really pleased to be with you, and I'm grateful for the wonders of Zoom, because I'm recovering from coronavirus. So without Zoom, I wouldn't be able to participate. So I'm pleased to be with you, and thank you for the invitation. And I have listened to quite a few of the earlier presentations, quite impressive, especially the impressive developments in Egypt, which I, to a certain extent, I will cover a little bit in my own presentation. I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation. Can you see it?
Yes.
Not yet, Charles.
Yeah, let me just put it back on. Can you see it now?
Yeah, sure.
Good, thank you. So I'm going to talk a bit about Europe's energy dilemmas and the impact these have on aspirations in the East Med. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has radically and permanently upended the global energy sector. Everything we knew to the end of last year, it's now different. We now have a bipolar world with the United States and the European Union on one side and China and Russia on the other, with the rest of the world in between. This also increasingly applies to energy. The European Union's goal is to get rid of Russian gas at the latest by 2030. And this reopens gas export opportunities from the East Med that previously were considered to be commercially challenging. But is this realistic? What are the opportunities and what are the limitations? And that's what I'm going to talk about. So, decoupling of European energy from Russian oil, gas, and coal is one way and permanent, at least over the foreseeable future. What the Ukraine war brought home is that fossil fuels are still existential to global energy systems, and that global energy systems and geopolitics matter. The reality is that since 1970, about 80% of global energy comes from fossil fuels, and that has been happening every year, including last year and this year, where still are at this level of 80% of global energy coming from fossil fuels. And it's an important factor that we need to remember. Increasing reliance on renewables is still challenged by long-term intermittency, for which there are no answers yet. And yet we have to move in that direction. We have to push for more renewables. And as we do that, the need for gas as backup because of this intermittency increases. Gas is a necessary part of the solution. Many tend to ignore it, but it's unavoidable. The world and governments will need to think about how to process energy for the longer term. It is a basic living requirement. You can see from this graph here what I said before, that the inexorable rise in energy utilization in the world, but also at the same time, this 80% contribution to global energy consumption from fossil fuels. So what should it be done? The world will still need secure and affordable supplies of oil and gas for a long time to come. But the reality is that so far, the big winner from this is coal. The world needs to get rid of coal, get out of coal, and replace it with renewables supported by natural gas during transition. What is also needed is a global climate deal, but this should involve China and Russia. They need to be part of it. Climate doesn't know boundaries, and these are two huge emitters that need to be part of it. Plans to address Europe's energy dilemmas must reflect reality, though. The pain of high prices and inflation on Europe today, before the Europeans take to the streets in bigger numbers than they do already. The war in Ukraine appears to be becoming protracted. Europe must have answers to its energy dilemmas, which is so that a long period in crisis mode and high prices will be destructive. We need to get out of that as soon as possible. EU priorities affecting the East Med. So let's talk a bit about the East Med and how all of these things affect it. EU requires alternative supplies of gas so that it can end dependence on Russian gas by at the latest 2030. In addition, the EU is accelerating transition away from fossil fuels to renewables and hydrogen, planning to cut natural gas consumption by 30% by 2030 on the way to largely eliminate fossil fuels by 2050. The EU is unlikely to change its long-standing and dismissive stance on financing long-term fossil fuel projects. EU's priority is fast transition to green energy, intended to avoid lock-in of long-term fossil fuel projects. In other words, it does not need East-Med gas beyond 2030. But the G7 yesterday opened the way for investment in LNG as a necessary response to the current crisis. But given the resistance by climate campaigners, will this stick? The European Union also is resisting it. So what could be the East-Med energy contribution to the European Union? Diversification of energy supplies have opened up opportunities for East-Med gas to Europe, as I said before. On this basis, the East-Med should give priority to maximize and accelerate LNG exports from already existing facilities. Because of this limitation that it has to be done by 2030. These include Israel's developed gas fields and Egypt's liquefaction facilities at Idku and Damietta. This is what the EU-Egypt-Israel MOU has formalized. EU's targets do not support any new gas projects that will not come on stream over the next 2 to 3 years, especially pipelines. Securing long-term investments requires EU that reliance on gas will not be long-term beyond 2040, something it does not at present appear to be prepared to. These are the gas fields I was talking about. In Israel, we have Leviathan and Tamar. Leviathan has spare capacity to export gas, and in Idku and Damietta, we have 2 LNG plants that can be used for exports. Cyprus gas fields are yet to be developed, so they cannot conform to this 2030 requirement. And the same applies to all of these gas pipelines that have been proposed. The gas needs to be, Europe needs to relax its gas requirements substantially to make these projects viable beyond 2030. Except perhaps gas to Turkey for its own use to get rid of Russian gas. But that's a different story and subject to huge geopolitics. So what is the future? With the EU accelerating transition to green energy and hydrogen, the future of energy in the East-Med lies in a strategy based on rapid growth of renewables, combined with energy storage, electricity interconnectors, and use of gas regionally in support of renewables during transition. The greatest evolving future opportunities are in hydrogen, and I'm glad to have heard quite a few colleagues earlier on, especially from Egypt, telling us about what they're doing in that direction. However, Europe's energy dilemmas will not be solved by rushing into putting all its eggs into the basket of low energy density intermittent renewables. It will need gas for a while yet. That and the G7 decision could still open the way for the East-Med to make a greater contribution of natural gas to Europe, making full use of its 600 BCM unutilized gas reserves. But that requires a timely change of mind in the European Union, which is very difficult to see at present. Hopefully, the European Union will see the light in the not too distant future. Either that, or within a few years, we'll end up with another crisis, another energy crisis, because gas will be needed and it won't be there. Thank you.
So I think Mr. Elinas has finished his presentation. Thank you very much, Charles. I don't know if you hear us. do indeed, thank you. Δεν ξέρω αν τον ακούσατε κι εσείς. Νομίζω ότι είναι πολύ σημαντικά αυτά που μας είπε και σχετικά με τις μελλοντικές κινήσεις της Ευρώπης και το πώς θα πρέπει να κινηθούμε καλύτερα σε σχέση με το transition και με τους στόχους που έχει θέσει για το 30, ούτως ή άλλως. Οι επόμενες ομιλήτριες είναι η κυρία Μαρία Τσιάδη και η κυρία Σοφία Γιαλαμά από την Global Sustain. General Manager είναι η κυρία Τσιάδη και ESG and Sustainability Consultant που είναι βασισμένη στο Κάιρο, στην Αίγυπτο, η κυρία Γιαλαμά. Αν τα λέω σωστά τα ονόματα και τα τονίζω σωστά. Καλώς σας βρίσκουμε.
Πολύ. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ.
Μπορείτε να ξεκινήσετε. Έχουμε πάει πάρα πολύ πίσω, το καταλαβαίνω, αλλά δεν μπορούμε να κάνουμε κάτι άλλο.
Εγώ θα είμαι αρκετά σύντομη. Θα μιλήσω στα αγγλικά, γιατί γνωρίζω ότι έχετε αρκετούς καλεσμένους που δεν γνωρίζουν ελληνικά.
Πολύ ωραία.
Hello to everyone. On behalf of the Global Sustain team, I would like to thank you for the invitation. We are here to present our digital application for the collection, analysis, and evaluation of non-financial ESG data. My name is Maria Tiadi. I am the General Manager of Global Sustain. We are the sustainability experts. We have 17 years of experience on the subject, an extensive community network, while we cooperate with universities, research centers, and intergovernmental organizations. Among our board of directors, Mr. Michael Spanos is the managing director and expert advisor to the European Commission and an exclusive trainer of EBRD and Moody's internationally. We are an international sustainability management consulting firm with presence in various countries, either directly or through affiliates, like in Egypt, and we provide a number of services. Consulting services, training, we have the Green Private Club, and also we digitalize the ESG. Here I will talk a little bit about the consulting services. We cover all the needs of any type of corporation regarding issues of sustainability and ESG, navigating them into this journey, regardless of their level of acknowledgement and engagement. We align with many organizations, as you can see here, and we have a wide portfolio of projects in various industries. Among them, you can see energy industries, for which we have created reports and strategies. We also organize and conduct trainings for various stakeholders on relevant ESG issues. Here you can see some of the training thematics. We have human rights and labor rights. We cover anything that has to do with training on ESGs. We also run a network of companies, NGOs, associations. We call it the Green Private Club, with the sole intention to educate and inform our members on issues of ESG. We conduct researches on their behalf, and of course, our main purpose is the collaboration and communication of joint activities. Finally, we are proud to say that we have digitalized the ESG criteria by content writing for e-platforms, which we may as well develop, as we have done recently for EBRD and Eurobank. My colleague, Ms. Sofia Yalama, will present you the ESG rating tool that I mentioned about in the beginning, which we have developed and will officially launch within the month of July. Thank you for your attention, and me and my team, we are at your disposal for any further information. Sofia?
Hello, everyone. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, thank you for the invitation. Thank you to the organizers. My name is Sofia Yalama. I'm an ESG and sustainability consultant at Global Sustain, and I'm based in Cairo. So today, I would like to present you the Global Sustain rating and how Global Sustain helps entities to manage, measure, and disclose their ESG performance through this app. One moment. Okay. So, first of all, we would like to mention that ESG rating is gaining momentum at international and national levels. banks, investors, and the supply chain are increasingly evaluating the performance, ESG performance of companies, especially those operating in carbon-intensive sectors such as the energy sector. So Global Sustain, with over 15 years of experience in ESG assessment methods, is currently launching an ESG data gathering, management, and evaluation application available at ratingglobalsustain.org. So the Global Sustain Rating is a comprehensive application for the collection, analysis, and evaluation of ESG data. It has been developed to be used by all types of entities, such as companies and organizations of all sizes and industries, as well as banks and fund providers. It is important to mention that the application is developed especially to support the SMEs that require support to raise awareness in relation to ESG management and disclosures. The questionnaire is developed according to our multi-year experience working with corporations and SMEs, international financial institutions, and asset managers in Greece and abroad. The questions, of course, are according to the following standards, guidelines, regulations, and circulars of the EU and the national legislations. Among of them is the EU taxonomy, the SFDR regulation, CSRD, CSDG, and national laws and regulations on corporate governance goals. Some of the unique points of the application include the existence of a multi-stakeholder rating committee that is comprised of regulators, investors, bankers, and auditors, as well as the assessment of the users' environmental and social risk category, the compliance on their ESG regulatory check, and the provision of alerts and ESG action plans, especially for SMEs that require extra support on this matter. The questionnaire is adapted and accessible to the capacity and data availability of SMEs and is applicable also to corporates, financial institutions, and public bodies. The application provides multiple functionalities and quantitative and qualitative data results that we will see further later. So let's see how the application works in 6 simple steps. First of all, the user registers for free in the platform, enters their commercial financial data to activate their membership, and then the application creates automatically the user's ENS risk category according to their NACE codes and international financial institution standards. Then the user proceeds to the data entry of their stakeholders to develop an explicit stakeholder engagement plan, then move to fill out questions about the environment, social issues, and governance. Anytime they can check quantitative and qualitative data results, such as how many questions are answered, ESG KPIs and how they're calculated, alerts that are generated through the application to be exported and address these issues at entity level, recommended actions to export it and help the entity apply a holistic ESG action plan, and of course the ESG evaluation, once it's submitted, creates the ESG score of the entity and rating. The user has access to multiple dashboards such as the rating history and industry benchmarking. Final step is the development and export of the ESG certificate that is valid for 1 year. One unique and innovative feature of the application is that it enables the export of reports in editable format, which can be used as input and evaluation data for business, credit and investment decisions, due diligence controls of the supply chain, and the submissions of reports to supervisory and regulatory authorities. The application's methodology is transparent and available in the platform, and the annual membership includes several functionalities and options, including the third-party confirmation of the submitted data. The application will be available in a cloud environment and will be offered as software as a service. It will be officially launched in the Greek market on July 12th in an event of Global Sustain, and it will be also available in the international market, such as Egypt, by the end of the year. Our purpose by launching this application is to help all types of entities, regardless of size and industry, to comply with the evolving ESG regulatory requirements, access finance with better interest rates and financing opportunities, perform ESG due diligence in the supply chain, support their decisions, credit, investment, and business decisions, export reporting, and of course, improve their brand image in the market. Thank you very much for your attention. For more information, we are at your disposal.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tsiadi and Mrs. Yalama. I think we see Charles, but we already concluded. So, in the program, there are another 3 presentations, but two of them are going to be transferred for tomorrow, and the last one, it was cancelled. Closing for today, I will say that we had a very interesting discussion, and we heard interesting points of views from Mrs. Doukou from the Ministry of Energy, Dr. Mohina from Egypt's Ministry of Energy and Renewables, Mrs. Bakoyannis, Member of Parliament, Professor Maniatis, the former Minister of Energy, Mrs. Terstal, the Ambassador of Netherlands, and we heard also these interesting points on the offshore wind farms, Mr. Lamarck, reporter, Mr. George Kremlis, the principal advisor to the Greek Prime Minister, Mr. Karidas from the companies from the Kopelousos Group, which was very clear about the clean energy and, of course, the interconnections cables and the services that produce the Kopelousos Group. Mr. Ahmed Tarek Saleh about the El-Suedi operations and services, the Power and Energy Corporation, Electric Corporation. Mr. Charles Elinas talking about geopolitics and how the European Union will have to tackle with the energy problem and crisis. Mrs. Tsiadi and Mrs. Yalama from the Global Sustain about the rating tool and the consulting of their company. Thank you very much for your participation. Of course, we had this very long, let's say, period of time that we extended the program. We had more than 1 hour delay. I think the presentations were very interesting. I don't know if they are going to be uploaded in the system or in the YouTube. You can follow them. Thank you again very much, and enjoy Crete for this afternoon. I think the program is free, and enjoy us tomorrow morning again at the same place. Thank you very much.